Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Alexander Svetski, an Australian, a Bitcoiner who has moved to Latin America. He's preaching location independence. He's written multiple books about crypto. He's a builder, entrepreneur, all around interesting guy. We welcome Alex to the podcast.
Vance, thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention maybe co-founder of Satlantis.
Yes, all good.
And I met your other co-founder, Jordy.
Yep. Yeah. At the Free Cities conference or something, right?
Free Cities, yep.
Yeah, and I think you and I just missed each other in Albufeira, right?
No, we met for like 2 seconds.
Shit. Okay.
Friend of the pod, Luke Micic. I always mispronounce his name too, but Luke's a friend of the pod. He's been on like twice, and he kind of got us introduced real quick in Albufeira.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Luke's a good kid. He's a retard, but he's a good kid. I love him.
Yeah. I think everybody's making some changes recently, right? You're down in Brazil. I just saw he just got married in Peru or something.
Yes.
Lots
yeah, a couple of us are kind of living the Latin life as you so aptly branded it.
So maybe we'll kick it off with that, which is like the nomad to expat pipeline, as I sometimes call it, which is like you start as a digital nomad, you get your first taste of location independence, you go hit like 12 cities in 12 months and just go crazy. And then you realize that you do kind of need a base, or at least maybe when you start getting like wife, kids, whatever, then you kind of get forced to at least have a base. But what's kind of the journey been like for you, or how do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, man, I think the whole nomad thing that was big like 5-10 years ago has evolved a little bit. And I think that's a big part of like we who were nomads back then have kind of gotten a little bit older now, right? And it's all good and well living out of a suitcase and traveling every couple of weeks, every month or some shit when you're young and you don't have sort of the more adult responsibilities, and it's fun. But the analogy I always use with people is like it's a little bit like I don't know if you guys sort of had this in the Canadian culture when you were younger, but like we'd go to Pizza Hut and eat all you can eat. And you'd kind of end up like trying everything and feel like shit afterwards because you ate the fucking pasta and the pizza and the meat and the fucking dessert and everything, right? So it's like, when you get older, it's more about like realizing that when you go to a buffet, that you don't have to eat everything. You just eat more of what you actually like, right? And I think as you mature, as you get a little bit older, you just realize that, hey, man, there's some things that are good to experience, but not sort of good to live as a constant lifestyle. And one of those things is traveling around a lot. Now I love to travel, but for a number of years I had no base, right? So to give people a little bit of context, I left Australia in 2019. I kind of somehow by God's grace or whatever, I left before all the lockdowns and everything happened. And for better or worse, I kind of ended up stuck in Germany, in Berlin during the lockdowns, and I couldn't leave and I couldn't go back to Australia. And then, luckily I then saw what was actually going on in Australia with the lockdowns and people not allowed to leave in their house and all this shit. I was like, fucking thank God I can't go back. But at that point, like all of my shit was in Australia, like all of my stuff was there and I couldn't go back. So I'm like paying rent there and all this sort of stuff. So I ultimately like figured out a way to just like cut all my ties with the country. But then I was living out of a suitcase. I lived in Berlin. I lived in Italy for a little bit. I traveled around Europe for a little bit. Then I went to, as soon as things started to open up a little bit, I went down to Brazil, lived there for like 2 months. And then Brazil started to mandate PCR testing. And I was like, fuck you. And then I went to Costa Rica. I lived there for a little bit, and then they started to do some mandates. Then I jumped over to Mexico, and then I was like, I had a really fucking rough time in Mexico. I was in Mexico City, and just, man, the level of compliance there drove me absolutely mental. So I was like, I can't fucking stay here. So then I made it to Miami, and then Miami was like the first time I remember like I could walk into a Whole Foods, like a store without somebody telling me to put my mask on. I was like, holy shit, this place is paradise. So I like lived in Miami for a little bit, and I kind of like was basically in a suitcase for a number of years. And along that way, I met my who she became my girlfriend, obviously, but then became my wife, and I was the mother of my child. She was a Dominican girl, and I met her in Costa Rica actually. And yeah, I kind of convinced her along the way to like pack her shit and come with me. And we traveled together to a bunch of different countries. We did our honeymoon in Europe. We hit like 12 cities in 3 months. It was wild. And yeah, we both just, by the end of it, we were just like so fucking burnt out. We're like, okay, we got to settle somewhere. And we had to pick somewhere where we could both get a visa relatively easily. And Brazil's nomad visa was like new at the time, and it was fantastic. And yeah, man, ultimately we chose to settle down, and it was the best decision we made because it gave us an opportunity to kind of settle somewhere, start to build routine again, start to build some local communities, some friendships, some roots, and actually like absorb some of the culture. Because I think that's a lot of what the nomads lose is they're sort of these like perpetual tourists who, they kind of have a bunch of acquaintances everywhere, but no like real deep friendships. No like real association to a region or a place or a community or anything like that. And yeah, that kind of like led me to change my perception from nomading to kind of what you described as the nomad to expat pipeline, which I've sort of described as the kind of the nomad to the location independence pipeline, which is I still love to travel, and my ideal life is having one base in a place like Latin America, like Florianopolis, and then another base in a place that is more city oriented. And, that could be anything from a Dubai to a New York to
Right.
a, fucking, I don't know, Hong Kong, whatever, but something that has, because at least me, I love the city vibe, but I can't do that full time. And I love the Latin America vibe that is like more beachy, whatever. But I also that shit drives me crazy if it's like full time. So like I like to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And the key important thing here is being location independent so that you have that freedom so that, if you get invited on a ski trip to Japan for a week or something, you can go because a lot of people they can't, you're in Brazil, Carnival's coming up in February. I've been trying to organize a crew for Carnival and I hit up all my normie friends from back home and I'm like, the guys, let's do Carnival. And they're like, ooh, yeah, I don't know. I think my PTO is like I've already used all my vacation days for the year, and I'm like, what do you mean? We're planning this 6 months in advance. Like we
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah.
about vacation days, but
Prisoners.
prisoners. So that is kind of like the one of the key threads, right? Is just having the independence.
Yeah, I think people sort of larp about freedom a lot in all spaces, right? In like whether it's the remote workspace, the Bitcoin space, this space, that space, all this sort of stuff. And I think ultimately, really, what it comes down to is like how much choice and flexibility do you have in your life, and what are the consequences to those choices. And I guess the older you get as well, the more you realize that every choice also comes with a cost, right? Um, but yeah, like I know in my situation in particular, like being able to, and I guess this is the same in your situation, other people who have sort of structured their life to be a little bit more location independent, like you can go to another place, right, that is completely detached from where your base is, and actually go and have an experience, and not be trapped by the commitments of a geographic location for work or whatever it is, right? So, and I think a lot of people, the normies, quote unquote, kind of think that's impossible, but if you structure your life right, if you make sort of the right moves, I think it is very possible.
Yeah, there's also this idea. I'm sort of sidetracking, but it's what I call the double rent paradox,
Mm-hmm.
which is where someone's paying rent in their expensive city, their Sydney, Melbourne, Toronto, whatever. And then I go, come hang out with me for a month. Come hang out in Floripa. And they go, oh, but then I'm paying double rent. I'm paying in Floripa. I'm paying in the. I'm like, dude, that is the worst perspective ever. But a lot of people get caught up in that. I don't know what are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, my thoughts on that is fucking go make some more money and stop being a cheapskate, basically, right? Like, when I was younger, I kind of thought like that as well. I was like, oh, okay, and that's actually part of why I became a nomad because I didn't want to pay double rent, right? But the cost of not paying double rent is not having a base to come back to. And now that I'm a little bit older, I don't give a fuck about double rent. I'll pay triple rent to have multiple bases because now, like, my MO is like, hey, just like make more money and increase the quality of life. Like, there was a
Yeah.
stage where I thought, okay, well, maybe to avoid double rent, maybe I can rent out my place and stuff like that. And then I kind of had this epiphany. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you being such a fag? Like, just make some extra money and don't worry about like the double rent or like renting a place on Airbnb so you can like avoid the extra. It's like, shut the fuck up and just make some more money. And like actually enjoy your life because, man, we kind of, I'm sort of late 30s now. So you've, since we had our baby like recently, I don't know. I've had just like a deeper sense of realization that time really does fly, man. Like you don't get that many. Um, what do you get? Like 10, 20 summers in your prime maximum, right? Like it's not a lot. And if you're gonna sit there and worry about double rent and all that sort of shit, and like kind of limit your life or kind of like box yourself in, I don't know. I think it's a sad way to live. At least it's not the way I want to live.
Mhm. No,
I mean,
good
I'm curious.
answer.
What's your solution to the double rent? That's my thing. It's like make some more money.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
would
Do
say
you have
make
an
some more money.
alternative?
Yeah, I would say make some more money. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. We're on the same page there.
This is really not even that expensive to make. Like if
It's
it's
not. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, if you go to like a Brazil or a Colombia or whatever, like you're going to spend an extra 2 grand. So what? It's not that much.
Yeah, so tell me a bit about the idea, maybe dovetailing into Satlantis, which is basically a community for like-minded individuals, digital nomads, I think Bitcoiners as a social travel network. I think some people have attempted this. Maybe there are some successful ones. I do see ads on Instagram for different ones or something, but
Yeah.
what has anyone been successful with this kind of thing before?
No, no one's been successful. We haven't been successful either. I'm just going to say it straight up. Yeah, like I think everyone's sort of got a sense of this, but I swear to God, it's like no one's going to beat Instagram on this. So we've actually, in the last couple of months, part of why I kept delaying our talk was I've actually nuked 80% of the app, and we're moving away from the whole social network for nomads and all that sort of shit. And literally, we're just like building a high powered events app with Bitcoin payments and a bit of a social
Mm,
layer. So you can build a community. That's it.
okay. Kind of like a
So
meetup.com for Bitcoin.
kind of, or I would say even more like a Luma. I don't know if you've played around with Luma
A
recently.
little bit, a little bit.
Yeah. So Luma, I would say, is like the gold standard for event apps. Like Luma did a really good job of combining kind of some of the community element of a meetup.com and the ticketing element of a Eventbrite. So we're kind of taking that a step further where you've got that. So you've got ticketing and you can build community. But you can do more with ticketing on our app. So you can basically do ticketing in like with credit card fiat, right? So we have a
Mhm.
Stripe integration coming up soon. But you can do it with stablecoin and Bitcoin. And that just means it's way cheaper and it's way more streamlined. And you can actually, as an event host, you can spin up an event. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, right? If you want to use something like Luma, you are kind of geo fenced into wherever Stripe is available, and Stripe is
Mm,
not available everywhere, right? So, like, if you're in, I don't even believe it's like available in places like Colombia. So, if you want to host an event in Colombia,
right, or
unless you're
Paraguay.
an yeah, or Paraguay, or whatever, unless you're an expat with a local Stripe account, you're not going to be able to get paid for an event, right? But with Bitcoin, you can get paid anywhere. So that's one element that's different. And the second element that's different is we are building out like a really robust community feature in it so that you can actually, so for example, in your case, if you as My Latin Life want to run events, whether virtual or physical, you
Hmm.
can invite people to your community. You can have member only events, you can have member only webinars, whatever, and people could pay you in your community in Bitcoin and fiat, whatever, to be a part of a community. They get access to certain things. And then you can have like a general list. So it's a little bit like school in that sense.
Right, or
So you
WAP.
got kind of, yeah, exactly. So you got like a community element, but it's more the community component or the community feature is an addendum to the core events app, right? So it's all around like events and doing shit. So you could put on anything from a dinner to a trip to a mini conference to a retreat to whatever, and you could make it members only. You can make it open to the public. Anyone can pay whatever. So like it's really around experiences and events, like doing shit in the real world.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And taking a slight pivot to what you have going on in Floripa, I only saw it briefly, but you're kind of building like a tech forward community in Floripa as well.
It's not even a community, dude. No, this is like a month-long event. So actually,
Okay.
I'm inviting you to this live. Here we are on the show, and you got to say yes. But basically, it's going to be. This is where the app converges with what I'm doing, right? So the event itself, it's called Discover Floripa, and it's going to
Mhm.
be month-long, basically collection of events. It's a month-long calendar where we and my partner in Discover Floripa, we're putting on kind of like a skeleton or a framework for a whole marketplace of events to happen throughout the month.
Mhm.
And we're breaking it up into 4 weeks. Each week is has a particular theme. So like week one is called sovereignty, and there will be a kickoff conference for 2 days at the beginning of the week, and it's every topic from like Bitcoin to sovereignty to Nostra to passports to residencies, offshoring, home birthing, all that sort of shit. Right. Week two is called build and create. Once again, there'll be a kickoff event, which will be a whole sort of 2 day conference on everything from content creation, branding, marketing, capital raising, business, real estate, product, all that sort of shit. Week three called polarity. So that'll be about relationships, men, women. We'll separate the guys and the girls for a week. The boys will go out, we'll shoot guns, we'll wrestle, we'll surf, all that sort of shit. The girls can go do, women's stuff like women's circles, cooking, cleaning. I'm kidding. Um, but like, cooking, women's circles, yoga, Pilates, all that shit. And then the final week, we'll do a wellness week. And what's special about the way it's going to be structured is, as I said, the beginning of each week, we'll have a formal kickoff event. But then for the rest of the week, it's open for anybody to add anything to the calendar, right? And what that means is people could add like dinners, they could do workshops, they can do surfing lessons, jujitsu lessons, it could be a hackathon, it could be a mini conference inside the month, whatever. Like it's open, and for the month people can come and just like join whatever they want, right? And where Satlantis comes into this is that Satlantis is the software solution. It's the events app that everything is on, right? So people subscribe to the one calendar and they have all of the different events, and they can just like pick a la carte. Okay, this event looks cool. I want to go to that dinner. I want to go to this campfire. I want to go to that surfing lesson. I want to do this event. And they're just like inside the app, they can just like subscribe to whatever they want. They pay for it, and it's in
Mhm.
their own personal calendar. So they have an agenda for the whole month, and they can go to whatever they want.
Wow.
But
And
yeah,
what month is it?
it's April. So
Okay.
the whole month of April. So the idea is that, April is kind of shitty weather in most of the world, but it's fucking perfect time in Floripa. Like
Yeah,
the weather
the
is
shoulder
perfect.
season.
Yeah, it's like perfect shoulder season. All the tourists are fucking gone. The prices are cheap again. You can get a beautiful Airbnb for like $1,500 a month. Like it's just the ideal time to be here. And yeah, man, like it's a chance for people to come, live, work, enjoy, and have a bunch of shit going on throughout the month and have a bunch of cool people to hang out with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess you're pretty big on community then.
I mean, this is, I think, the the way things have evolved with like social media, and this is a bit of a trope these days, but like I think a lot of shit has moved online, but online will never compare with kind of the relationships you can build in person.
Mhm.
And if this event is successful in Floripa, the plan will be to copy this event in all sorts of. So we'll do a Discover Asuncion, so we'll do a Discover Paraguay, we'll do a Discover Medellin, we'll do a Discover Madeira, Discover Tulum. Like we'll do this around the world, and kind of do this kind of like format of 4 weeks with four different themes, and try and do it better and better and better every time we do a new city. And I think it's like really powerful because these are the four things that matter in life, right? Sovereignty, making money, relationships, and health, right? Like if you can nail down those 4 pillars, you're set
Hmm.
for life. So if we can build a movement around this, I think it's gonna be really powerful.
Yeah, I can tell, and it's funny because I can tell you're like a straight shooter like me, like where you'll just fucking say how it is. You know what I mean? You'll say, "Yeah, Australia, communist," that type of stuff. And I've kind of realized like how important it is to find our community because if you talk to like a normie from Canada or I'm sure Australia, same kind of thing, it's diverged so much, sort of like the left versus right type of thing. Like I had a buddy visiting me recently. He was like, still pretty like normie leftist or whatever. I just made like a joke about like the what's it called, the lands where they like pray to the land or the previous owners of the land. What's it called?
Oh, like
The rights, the land acknowledgements. So I don't know if they have I don't know if this is made they've made this to Australia yet, but I just
they
made a
do,
joke.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They do it in Australia as well, bro.
They
I
do it
grew
in
up.
Australia too. Oh my god! So I made a joke about land acknowledgements, and like he was like, "Yeah, like what's wrong with like acknowledging like the previous owners of the land or whatever?" And I was like, "Wow, dude! Like that was like my PG rated joke. Like
I know,
you're
right?
not even ready for what I. And so it's like I do think that having like minded communities is more important than ever.
It is. It is. It is. It is, man. It's I mean, there's a I'll make one adjustment to what you just said. So instead of like-minded, I think it's I teach this one to everyone. It's more about getting like-valued people together. Because like-minded is okay, but you actually want sort of varying-minded. But and I know this is actually what you mean, but it's just like a linguistic adjustment. It's like you're looking to align people of similar values,
Hmm.
who may have multiple different mindsets. But that's the key trigger because, yeah, man, like the fucking normies are completely out of touch. And what you said there is a PG thing, obviously, but they'll fucking freak out about it because they're just not primed for it. Um, and I think, because people like you and I have been on Twitter for a little while, so we've become desensitized to it, and sort of that's like
Hmm.
the nature of like these things have moved. The Overton window has really shifted. Um, but yeah, man, like at the same time, you can't live online for the rest of your life.
Right.
So you want to kind of bring some of that to the real world. And I think we can do it with this kind of an event. Like I said this to Luke, actually, I was speaking to Mikic the other day and I was like, man, I'm fucking done with Bitcoin events. Like I've been to 100 of them. It's the same shit over and over and over and over and over again.
Hmm.
And I've also been to nomad events, and no offense, but the nomad events are fucking boring as well. It's a bunch of overgrown children, kind of like pretending they're still in their 20s, right? So like I want to build something that's a little bit more mature and a little bit more holistic, which kind of combines elements
Yeah.
from all of these different worlds. And it's designed for whether you are younger and you want to come and like fuck around and travel and all that sort of stuff, but also if you're like kind of grown up a little bit, you have a family, you have a wife, like you can come bring your family down to this thing and you can connect with people. So it kind of like transcends some of the age barriers, but most importantly brings people of similar values together irrespective of their age group.
Hmm. Yeah, I think with the digital nomad events, the biggest problem is like a lot of people just aren't making money, especially in the ones
Yeah,
in
they're
Europe.
broke motherfuckers,
Um,
man. Yeah.
what's kind of your complaint about the Bitcoin events or thoughts on Bitcoin events in
I
general?
mean, it's just because I've been around the space for 10 years, bro. So I've like heard everything already. Like, so it's
Hmm.
just all I'm watching is like rinse and repeat and the same people. So it's like, it's not that they're bad. It's always going to be good for newbies, and even somewhat it's good for people who've been around because it's a way to sort of deepen the relationship and the bonds with people that you already know. But fuck, man, like if I have to go to another Bitcoin event to see the same fucking people over and over again to talk about the same shit about Bitcoin, like I'll shoot myself in the face, right? I'm done. So for me, it's like now, how do we incorporate Bitcoin into something more holistic? And that is, having different residencies, fucking getting married, building relationships, building your health up, like learning what to do with your Bitcoin later as well. Like this is a big sort of sacred cow in the Bitcoin space. But in the Bitcoin space, people are like, oh, don't fucking spend your Bitcoin on anything. It's like, all right, dickhead. At what point do you actually grow up and deploy your capital into something other than just your cold wallet, right? So, I've personally started, investing in property and everything down here in Brazil because I want to establish myself here as a business owner in the community, right? So like I'm doing stuff with my capital. So there's a lot of that discussion to be had, and I think the sort of the Bitcoin only stuff gets a little bit too just everything is about Bitcoin and nothing else, which I think kind of like misses a lot of other things we could be doing in the world.
Your talk at BTC Prague was titled "The Sovereign Individual is Dead. What comes next?"
Mm-hmm.
Could you give people like a bit of a synopsis about the thesis behind that
Yeah,
provocative headline?
for sure, for sure. So I mean, have you read the book The Sovereign Individual?
Hmm.
Yep. So I think it sort of kind of gained popularity in the last couple of years, since the whole COVID and lockdowns and madness and all this sort of shit, and again, a lot of popularity in the Bitcoin circles. And I was one of the early readers of the shit. I fucking love that book. I read it like 3 times, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what's happening in the world. Yada yada yada. Where I had a big sort of a big epiphany was when I was during COVID. I refused under any circumstance to wear a mask under any circumstance. And that resulted in me getting arrested 4 times. I got arrested on 3 planes, and
No.
I didn't give a fuck. Like because I didn't care. Like it was, sorry, not that I didn't care. I cared too much. Probably it was a principle thing for me. So I got handcuffed and walked off 3 different flights. Once in Turkey, once in Brazil, and once in Germany. But under no circumstances would I put a mask on. And what I realized was I was an easy target because I was Mr. Sovereign Individual, individual being the operative word, right? And the premise of my talk when I gave it at Prague was I said, look, the sovereign individual was a concept that many of us took too literally. And we sort of fell in love with the idea of the individual part of it, um, not realizing that no individual is actually sovereign. Really, like you maximize sovereignty in a group. And I use the example of
Right.
had it been me and 10 of the boys on a plane being told to put our masks on, if we all said, no, go fuck yourself, I guarantee you none of us would have been arrested, right? And I
Hmm.
guarantee you we probably would have inspired another 10 people to say, no, fuck you as well.
Hmm.
And then the whole plane to say, no, fuck you. And then
Hmm.
nothing would have been done, right? And what I realized is that, yeah, sovereignty is more about actually having some level of influence and power. And you can't do that to a degree enough as an individual, unless you're fucking Trump, right? But even Trump has a team around him, right? Like when
Of
Trump first
course.
got
Yeah.
into power,
Yeah.
he
He's
was
not a
more of
lone
a,
wolf. Right.
exactly, yeah.
He's
So
like
the
in
lone
the
wolf
system.
fallacy is horseshit. So that was sort of my big epiphany, and that was like the premise of my talk. I said, look, we actually need to be building sovereign micro collectives, or in other words, the word that you used before, communities. Like build fucking communities, like valued people. Then you can create some level of sovereignty that is
And I think
meaningful.
this is particularly on trend because this used to be the nation state. It used to be, yeah, we're all Swedish, we're all whatever, we're all Irish. But now that the nation state is under attack for reasons we don't have to get into in this podcast. But the nation state is clearly under attack. It's not You can't find your community just by living in a country anymore. You can't just say I'm Swedish, I'm gonna live in Sweden, I'm gonna be around Swedes. That's not how it works when 60% of the kids are foreign born and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what kind of happens post nation state is people need to make their own type of communities, kind of what you're saying. And I don't know what's going to be successful or what this is going to look like, but it's going to be something like this.
100%. We need to rebuild it from scratch. Like it, and sort of like this is a somewhat of an echo of what happened when Rome sort of fell, right, and disintegrated. And then there was the rise of these new, they weren't really communities, but there were these like sort of new um, micro, and they weren't even nations at that time, right? They were sort of like
Like
micro empires and
fracturized
stuff like that.
states or
Exactly.
whatever. But
And you know they were sort of what created the West, right? That was like the new West emerged from that, and ultimately became 1,000 times more powerful than Rome. And I write this in my book, The Bushido Bitcoin. I say, look, what we are going through now is the necessary disintegration of what didn't work before, and we will, you know, the kind of it's funny. It was the nomadic tribes of the Germanics and the Slavics and the Latin tribes that, you know, the Visigoths and everything like that, that came together or sort of like built their own enclaves with the fall of the Roman Empire, and then they built the, you know, they became the Franks, they became the Rus, they became the Germanic tribes, etc. Um, we now, the location independent of us, are kind of doing that in this new world, right? In the Silicon Age, in some capacity, right? And we are going out and we're building these new enclaves, these new territories, and we're building these like communities and everything from the ground up. Like, you know, I live in Florianopolis now, and you know, I'm starting to build businesses on the ground here, starting with this event, and I'll be building other stuff here as well. And my goal in the next 10, 15 years is to be one of the major players here in this space. And yeah, sure, fucking I'm an expat, but I'm building roots and everything here. And I want to build a whole crew of people. And Floripa is more of an international zone than it is just the dumb fucking Brazilian zone, right?
right.
Um, and there's multiple of these enclaves. Medellin is one of those, right? Like Tulum, Merida, like, you know, there's parts of Rio, parts of Sao Paulo, etc. And I think this is sort of the new, like, you almost have like as opposed to a nation state, you have like these enclaves that are connected by similar values, and they're sort of like become a meta on top of, you know, the sludge that the nation states end up becoming.
Mm-hmm. Free
So, and
cities.
yeah, man. I mean, yeah, free cities is exactly like it's sort of like all of these things kind of like lock into each other. They're all sort of related. In my book, I actually in the last chapter of the book, I write a like it's kind of like a 10,000 word story, but it's set in the year 2084, and it looks at how the world has shifted, and I call it like executive states. And executive states are run by CEO kings and their, you know, their nobility class, which is their you know, their primary shareholders. And these these states function somewhat like a free private city, but they're more like um, a, a kingdom slash company, you know, because you need both. Like if it's too economically driven, too company driven, I don't think you have like bonds. If it's too
Mhm.
kingdom driven, it's too bonds, less, not enough economics. So there's some sort of marriage in the middle. Um,
Mm.
and I, you know, I kind of paint this story about these executive states are on one sort of end of the spectrum, and on the other end of the spectrum is what I call the the mega states, which you know, one of them is called Eurabia, which is basically what, you know, Western Europe has become, you know, with the capital of New Brussels, and it's like this big blob that runs on CBDCs and, you know, ultra surveillance state and all this sort of shit. But
uh,
it's you know, it's kind of, it sounds like a joke, but I actually laid it out in a way that I believe is realistic in like how the world is bifurcating into these enclaves versus these like blobs. And the goal is to get in the fucking enclaves and be a part of that as opposed to being a part of the blobs.
yeah. Maybe yeah. Maybe Florianopolis should become its own special economic zone, like
It
the free
probably will.
city of Floripa.
It probably will, bro. In 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, it's got that potential. The only thing that's lacking here actually is its own power generation. But man, with these like new nuclear, like modular nuclear reactors, that could be solved. You know, you could like have more than enough power for the whole fucking island of Florianopolis with a couple of modular nuclear reactors. Then you have energy sufficiency. You've got, you know, this place grows food. There's cattle everywhere. Like you've got people. You got everything. You could actually have a zone that is fully self sufficient. I think that is possible in the next 10 to 20 years, and I intend to be one of the motherfuckers who help make that happen.
I like it. I like the ambition. Am I catching? I'm just curious. Am I catching undertones of there's like electricity outages in Florianopolis? Am I
Not
seeing?
necessarily. No, no, no. It's not like Costa Rica or anything like that. It's actually pretty good here.
It's not Costa Rica. So Costa
Yeah.
Rica, yeah, has a lot.
Oh, dude, Costa Rica is a shit show, bro. Like fucking hell. Like
Yeah, I didn't know that.
especially if you're in the nice areas. So it's like it's a bit counterintuitive. Like if you're in San Jose, which is a fucking dump, I fucking hate that city. It's like like San Jose is like one of those Latin American capitals which has got the worst of both worlds, right? It's dysfunctional and full of traffic, and it's ugly. So it's like all fucking concrete and disgusting, right? So it's like really really bad. But the nice parts of Costa Rica are on the coast,
Right.
but when you go to the nice parts, all the infrastructure is completely broken as well. So like, yeah, you get like the nice nature and the beach and all that sort of stuff, but good luck to you if you're trying to run a business or have stable internet or something like that. The power goes out 3 times a day. Like when it pisses down rain, everything floods, so you're stuck. So it's annoying. Floripa is actually civilization. Like the power
Hmm.
might go out once every couple of months or something like that, but power outage might last like 20 minutes. It's nothing major.
Right, right. And then you go like, guys, when's the electricity coming back? Like, came savvy. It's like,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
know.
Yeah. So it's not that bad down here. It's like because it's you've got funny enough, you've got like lots of European blood. You got German blood down here. And that's like the um I believe is what made this region functional, as opposed to much of the rest of Brazil. I mean, but that's, like they say, uh, when socialists and leftists like use Sweden as an example of, oh, here's a socialist country and it's still, very wealthy. The best response is, show me any Swedish community that is actually poor. So it's like, um, it's even though socialism like fucks everything up, there's a very big difference between socialism in like Latin America or Africa versus socialism in Sweden. So there's like a what's the common denominator there? It's certainly not just the socialism. There's something
Yeah,
else.
there's
But
definitely a rabbit hole there.
yeah,
I did wanted to. I just want to ask you. So your last name is Svetski. Sounds like Eastern European, but you
yep.
got a little color, man. What's your background?
Yeah. So Macedonian, so Eastern European for sure.
Okay,
My parents are much more white than me. I spend too much time in the sun, bro. I'm always in
that's
the
it.
sun.
Okay.
Yeah, so like my mum is white as fuck. My dad got a little bit of a tan, but yeah, like they call me the black sheep, literally and figuratively speaking, because I've just been in the sun since I was young, man. I managed to grow a fucking tan that won't leave me now.
And what's kind of your relationship with Australia at this point? I struggle with this too. Kind of my relationship with Canada, communist hellhole, but obviously have a soft spot for it. How do you kind of like how do you think about that?
Same thing for me, man. There's like things I really miss about Australia. Like, Australia, like man, it's like could be such a beautiful place, right? And it is such a beautiful place, I should say. Like, and I think back on some of my most like cherished memories and places there. Like I love Byron Bay and like Noosa and Sunshine Coast, and then you further up you go to like the Hamilton Islands and stuff like that, which is stunning. Like there's so much beauty there. Um, but yeah, it's a fucking tragedy, man. Like what and it's like I don't know. It's almost like the commies go for all the nice places. They went for California, Canada, Australia. Like they just go and fucking infiltrate the
I mean,
best
I
places.
think we made Canada nice. It wasn't. It was like barren forest until we got there. But
Yeah, I mean, but we go there, we build it, but then the commies kind of take over, right? That's what I mean.
right,
So it's the
right,
same
right.
with like if you look at the original settlers of Canada were fucking based as fuck, right? Same as the settlers of California and everything originally. Like they were rugged, they were like
Yeah.
they were real like men, and then it's you kind of the commies sort of infiltrate all the nice shit and they ruin it. So I don't know, man. Like to answer your question, like what's my relationship there now? It's like I guess my relationship is somewhat um inactive because I'm so far away, I guess. Like I'm, now like I'm literally Brazil is about as far as you can get from Australia. So even if I wanted to have more of a relationship, I'm just too far away. Like I guess if I was in Bali, it'd be a different story, like or if I was somewhere in Asia side, it would be a different story. But like now that I'm so far away, both from a time zone perspective and from a travel perspective, and now that I'm sort of, building family and business and work and everything here, um, I don't know, like each month that passes, each year that passes, it's like one less reason to go back to Australia or to do anything with Australia. So yeah, man, I expect that, I don't know, sometime in the next couple of years, I probably will have even just like no need for having any relationship with the place anymore, which is sad. But my life's kind of somewhere else now.
Yeah, well, at least it's a funny dynamic because we see nothing but bad news about Canada, Australia, Europe. Like it's just constant bad news, and it sort of like reinforces the decision. You're like, okay, well, I guess it could be worse, or that kind of. I guess I made the right choice, kind of thing.
Somewhat. I think that's what drove me in the beginning, right? But now I think the drive is, as I said, a little bit different. It's that because that drove me in the beginning, and then because I decided to start establishing roots elsewhere, now I have less of an incentive to go back. Like maybe if I didn't start establishing roots here and didn't have a baby and all this other shit, maybe I would consider going back, right? Like I would say, okay, maybe it's worth going to check out. But now like all of my work is on the US time zone. Like my team is mostly sort of US, Europe, Latin America. I've got a new friend group down here, a new community down here. I'm building this event down here. Like everything is here now. So it's like, even as much as I would like to go back to Australia, it's actually more of an inconvenience now. So, even if like Australia got significantly better, like let's say on Twitter we start to see, oh, okay, there's a right wing revolution, everything is great in Australia now. I'd be like, yeah, that's cool, but fuck, too late. I'm already here.
Hmm.
So it's kind of
Well,
like done.
I truly think the Atlantic Ocean is the best place to be. Um, it's just it used to be the Mediterranean was like the best body of water. Now it's the Atlantic. It's the
Yeah, man.
best body of water, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So, with the time we have left, I wanted to quickly ask: are you still writing? Like, what's kind of your writing, um, your productivity routine for writing? Because I struggle with it a little bit.
Mm.
So, what do you do?
Man, I am not writing recently. So after my last book, I mean, Bushido of Bitcoin was 530 pages, man. Like it was, took me 2 years to write that motherfucker. And I rewrote it 8 times. So that was like a real heavy, heavy, heavy lift. And, there was no AI used in it, none of that bullshit. Like it was like all written from me. And it was a lot of work, man. Since that time, I did a little bit of blogging, but honestly, man, like I find much more joy now in building with the guys, and working on stuff. So I write less now. I think I'll come back to writing at some stage. I think that's kind of the nature of life. You do something really intensely for a little while, and you almost kind of like you burn out the pleasure receptors associated to it. So the way to revive that is to kind of like leave it for a little while and then come back again in the future, when you desire it again. So right now for me, yeah, writing is kind of secondary.
Mhm.
But when I was writing on a regular basis, my productivity hack was get up early, and the first thing I did before touching phones, before doing anything, was just sit down and write, and just like let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. Um, and some days would be dedicated to writing new shit, and some days would be dedicated to refining stuff that I previously wrote. And I would, kind of like alternate between them depending on where my inspiration was. But I kind of like let
Mhm.
let my inspiration guide me, as opposed to like the only thing I actively forced or turned into routine was the time. But then what I did in that time was kind of led by the inspiration.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of realizing the only time to write is in the morning. Like you think you can be like a night owl and get inspired, but it's like most nights you're pretty burnt. So
Totally, totally, totally. And I think that also, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I guess you're sort of what, like 30s, somewhere in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
around
So
there.
yeah. So for me, when I was in my 20s, I had a lot of like night owl energy, and like I would do those like pull fucking 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and just like be channeling ideas from some other dimension. Now, like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd be channeling fucking dog shit from my asshole. Basically, that's the only dimension it'll be coming from. Like I'd be just like blabbering shit. So now like my best stuff comes definitely early morning, fresh mind, non-plussed by anything else, and just like produce.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, what are you and the team working on most as we get towards wrapping up the episode? What are you excited about for 2026?
Yeah, man. So super excited about Discover Floripa, the event. As I said, that's going to be killer event. Like we got people coming from the Bitcoin space. We have people coming from the passport space, from the residency space, from like offshore accounting, from real estate, home birthing. We've got homeschooling. We've got people coming for like farming, homesteading, and what's the other one? Permaculture. We've got people coming from health, wellness, like Wim Hof stuff. We're actually another project that I've got going on with a business partner down here is we're building like a recovery and wellness center. So like saunas, cold plunges, and all that sort of stuff. So we'll have that running. Like this, man, it's going to be such a fucking killer month. So I'm really pumped about that. Obviously, seeing the app evolve further into the real sort of like community and events, those two things combined is really exciting for me. So right now, as I said, we just released Bitcoin payments. So anyone anywhere can spin up an event and get paid for it in Bitcoin. By the end of the year, we'll have stablecoin and fiat in there as well. So you can build communities and run events anywhere in the world and get monetized for them and start to build memberships. So that's really exciting. And yeah, dude, like seeing all of this shit come together and kind of like bringing all of my different projects that I'm working on kind of all aligned into one thing is really exciting for me, man.
Dope. I'm really excited for that. Sounds like a lot of great things, and I'm going to do my best to get down there to Floripa in April for, is it Discover Floripa?
Yeah, Discover Floripa, man. Discoverfloripa.com. So people should go check it out. Depending on when this comes out, tickets may or may not be on sale. I believe we're going to release tickets in December.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, please come as my guest, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever. But it's, dude, because you obviously haven't been down here, right?
I've been to Brazil many times. I have not been to Floripa.
Oh,
So
dude,
I know
it's
there
the
should
best
be
spot.
some direct flights to Asuncion. So can maybe make it happen.
Honestly, even the non-direct flight is really easy, bro. You just go Asuncion, São Paulo. It's a 1 hour layover, and you come. And like, it's your total flight time is 2.5, 3 hours, and then 1 hour stop. So you're here in 4 or 5 hours. It's fucking great.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely down to make it happen at some point. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. Really good to kind of shoot the breeze and see more what you're about. I think we had a great conversation here today.
Absolutely, man. Let's we'll do it again in the new year when the event is a little bit closer, and just like let everyone know that it's around the corner and get some people there, man.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to do one in like February, March or something, we can always run it back.
Giddy up.
Cool. So when I say bye, hold on for 2 seconds so we don't lose your audio. Always forget to mention that.
No,
But yeah, this has been another episode of the Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Alex Svetski from Satlantis and Discover Floripa. There'll be a link in the description where you can find him on Twitter and Discover Floripa and all the links that we were talking about in today's episode. And I'll probably make an appearance. So, if you're listening to this, start planning mentally. April, Floripa. And by the way, for the audience, we can get you Brazil digital nomad visa classes in Brazil if you would like. Paraguay residency as well, of course. And please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to this. Follow the podcast, leave a 5-star review. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Alex, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.